Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to an awesome edition of Math with Miss Semelian. Woo! All right. I have been kind of obsessed with The Hobbit lately, so that's why you get my awesome Hobbit background here. Today, our goal is that we're going to be able to go from fractions to decimals, there and back again. So not only will you be able, when we're done, to convert from fractions to decimals, but you should also be able to convert back from decimals to fractions. And since you guys are awesome mathematicians, I know you can handle it. All right, let's just make sure we are in a quiet space. Nothing is there to bother us. Awesome remember tomorrow you have to bring a piece of paper with your evidence of what you worked on. So I'm going to give you some fractions at the end. So right now you should have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen right next to you. Put your name on it because you're going to be turning that in soon or tomorrow. All right, let's get rolling. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is remember our place values. We've been getting better and better at this, but let's take a look here. We have the tens and the ones. We're going to go beyond that. We're going to go into some parts, such as the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. As we are converting back and forth between these, you will notice, we'll start maybe with some decimals, because this is the easy part. So let's say if I were to give you 0.7, you would tell me out loud this is worth 7 what? Tenths. Remember, you can talk to me when I'm on video. Please do. If I were to give you 0.45, what would that be as a fraction? 45 what? Think of what place value do you end in? Yep, hundredths. And sometimes it might have a whole number too, like 2.15 is the same as what? I'll give you a hint. It's going to be a mixed number. 2 and 15 hundredths. The denominator is always the place value that you end in. This, I think, is pretty much review for you guys. So now you've gone from decimals to fractions. So I'm actually going to go into fractions to decimals, which is a little bit more complex. All right. The big rule for this one is get to the place value if you can. Now some you might not be able to, and let me show you a little bit about what I mean by that. Let's say I give you the fraction 2/5. Well, fifths is not the name of a place value, but if you remember back to our equivalent fractions lesson, you can get to tenths very easily. How would you do that? Yep, multiply by 2 halves, because 2 halves is the same as a whole. And what would be in the numerator? Yep, 4. And if we were writing that as a decimal, we'd say it's point what? 0.4 or 4 tenths. Notice we ended in the tenths place. All right, let me show you some visual aids to go with this. If this is the whole, what is this filled in? 1 out of how many total? 10. 1/10. Let's write that as a decimal. Point what? The numerator tells us what goes in that place value, the tenths place. 1/10. Let's try a few others. Notice this one is now broken down not into tenths but hundredths. So if we were to write it as a decimal, how many are filled in? Well, I see 10 here, 20 total. So we would say this as 20 hundredths. We could also say that is equivalent to 2 tenths. And if we were to write either of these as a fraction, we would say 20 out of 100 or 2 out of 10. Here's another example. Let's see how many are filled in. I see 4 rows of 10 filled in and 3 more. So that's 43 out of a total of 100. 43 hundredths, I remember my place values. These lines help me. 0.43. All right, let's give a few of these a try. We're going to get to the place value using what we know about equivalent fractions. So, can you get 4/5 to be tenths or hundredths? Hopefully you said yes. And what would you multiply by? If we do it to the denominator, we must do it to the numerator. So we get 8/10. If I wrote that as a decimal, I'd say point what? 0.8. Let's get this one to either tenths or hundredths, or let's also look at the relationship. 3 is what of 6? 3 is half of 6. And we know half of a whole, one whole, would be point what? 0.5. Let's see here. I cannot divide this and get this down to 10 because I can't do it to the 5. So I'm going to multiply and get it up to hundredths. 20 times what will get me to 100? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 5. All right, and so what's in the numerator? 25. 25 hundredths looks like point what? 0.25. Here's some more examples. These ones, I like to think of them as money. So money sometimes helps me. So 3/4, if I have 3/4 out of 4 quarters, because I know 4 quarters is like $1. And there's 100 pennies in $1. Okay, 4 times what will get you 100? 25. 3 times 25 is what? 75. 75 hundredths looks like point blank blank. We're going to end in the hundredths place. 0.75. Ooh, 50ths, I know I can get to 100. 50 times 2, 6 times 2, I get 12 hundredths, which is the same as point what? 0.12. Ooh, I threw in a mixed number here just for fun, or as my brother likes to say, funsies. All right, we're going to convert just the fraction. We're going to leave the 2 whole. It's a whole number, but we need to convert 9/25 to hundredths. We would multiply that by 4. Multiply that by 4. 9 times 4 is 36. So now instead of 2 and 9/25, we have 2 and 36 hundredths, which we can now record as a decimal. So I'm going to make sure the 2 stays in the ones place in front of the decimal point, and 36 needs to end in the hundredths place. Another way that you can do fractions is thinking of how to divide them. We're not going to cover that today, but in your coming lesson, I'm going to do some things like this. So for today, I want you to think back to trying to find the place value, and I'm going to give you a few to try. All right, so here's where your piece of paper and pencil come in. You're going to try, let's do 12/20. Write that down. Convert that to another name of a fraction and then into a decimal. So first make it into a fraction, then what kind of a decimal could you make it? Then let's try, let's do 3/5. Find a new fraction name for that, thinking of your place values. Try to get to tenths or hundredths. Then you can find your decimal. And maybe you'll need both place values, maybe you won't. So make sure you've written this down. Here's 2 more I want you to try. Ready? Write this down. Try, let's do 1/4. Convert that to a different fraction, then make it a decimal. Then try let's do 3/20. Again, convert it to a different fraction name before you change it to a decimal. Again, your goal is to get to tenths or hundredths before you make it a decimal, and that's how you convert back and forth between decimals and fractions when they are really friendly. Next time, I will tackle how to convert when the fraction is not so friendly. Happy fractionating, boys and girls! Catch you later. Bye!